Vance says, hey, gents, could you recommend a source for VAs? Is there a website I could check out? Yeah, I mean, when we set up Vance, we have a product called Outsource Kingpin. It's a bit dated, but the process is still the same. Whenever we have to go on a hiring spree, which we've leaned out a lot, we don't run the store that we had with what used to be MGYB anymore. They took that with them when Marco left with Rob. So they're managing that. That's good. We had a lot of workers, a lot of builders, a lot of VAs, contract employees, and is a lot to manage. And we have a very lean operation now, and we intend to keep it that way. And anyway, whenever we have to do a lot of hiring, or even not really necessarily a lot of hiring, but we set up, it's called a hiring funnel. And we developed a product, I developed a product back in 2014 when I learned and started outsourcing. I learned this method of a hiring funnel. It wasn't called that, but that's what I ended up calling it. From Gonzalo Paternoster was his name. It was called Joyproof. And I don't think it's even a thing anymore, but way back then, that's where I learned how to do it. And I kind of modified it to my own needs and started hiring VAs that way because, it quickly helps you to eliminate tire kickers and time wasters and all that kind of shit. And you only end up spending any time communicating with really qualified candidates that are motivated, that have proven to follow instructions, that they can follow instructions and all that. So anyways, we got a product that I developed out of that called Outsource Kingpin. It was called something else before we called it that, but whatever. It's available. If you're interested in that, I would encourage you to check it out. Like I said, it's dated. I think we produced that in 2015, maybe 2016, but the principles are all still the same. So, I would recommend that you do something like that. And then I'm getting to your point here. We would use onlinejobs.ph. That's what we always used to find Philippines VAs. So this is the site that we always used whenever we would, we would create a hiring funnel depending on what position it was that we needed. And then we'd go subscribe, at the time it was like $50 a month. I don't know what it is now. It's been a couple of years since I've been in there. It looks like $69 a month. So it's gone up a little bit, but we'll go subscribe for a month is all it takes. And then you submit the job with the very clear instructions, like what we teach in Outsource Kingpin, and everybody goes through the hiring funnel. Like you don't have to answer and read resumes. You don't have to do any of that shit. You just post the job. And there's specific instructions in job posting on how they get access to the app, how they go through the application process, and everything's automated. And they go through that process. And then all you do is once at the very end, and it's interesting, but if 80 people would initially apply, because you'll get a shit ton of app. And that's why most people fail at hiring a VA is because, if you post a job on one of these sites, you get, 300 freaking applications, and it's from people that are not qualified. They didn't even really read the job posting. They just saw a new posting and they submitted, that's why I love the hiring funnel, because it forces them to take specific steps and follow instructions. And if they don't follow instructions, they're instantly disqualified. They're out. You didn't read, you didn't follow the video, or the step-by-step instructions that I wrote throughout the funnel. If that makes sense, like it instantly disqualifies people that are going to be problems if you ended up hiring them because they clearly can't follow instructions. That's it, right? So they prove themselves by going through the funnel. And then once they get on the whatever the output side of the funnel is, like I said, we consistently, if 80 people applied in the front end of the funnel, by the time it would go through, we might end up with 6 or 7 candidates at the end. And that funnel did all that work for us. And then I would typically interview the candidates that made it all the way through the funnel. And that interview process is where you determine who you hire, because it's really about, how do they communicate? Is the communication strained between us during the interview process? If so, it means our communication is probably going to be difficult on projects. So it's really about, they've already proven they can follow instructions and execute the tasks that you ask them to execute through the funnel process. So really the interview process is just about how well do we communicate, right? And if we communicate well, then now you're a prime candidate for, I might offer you a job, if that makes sense. So this is what we always use. I mean, I still use Upwork all the time. I just hired a ninja HTML developer over there because I'm doing a lot of HTML sites, as I've just talked about today many times. I'm also rebuilding expired domains right now. So we pull the archive records, from the Wayback Machine. We download the records, and then those are usually junk, and their sites look like shit. So I hired this awesome HTML editor from or developer over, and he's in India. His name is Neeraj, and he's badass. He's ninja. I pay him $16 an hour, but I go find the domains and purchase them, and I set up the hosting on cloud hosting, and then I go download the HTML files from Wayback Machine, and I just send him a message in Upwork and say, here's the domains, and we have a folder that all the HTML downloads are in, the zip files, and then he just goes and he modernizes the site. So he'll take the Wayback Machine archive records and he'll reproduce them in HTML5, so it's all modern with animations and everything. And then and then he publishes the site for me. And now we've got sites that are 100% relevant to the projects I'm working on, that are rebuilt old domains. So I get perfect topical trust flow links back to my money assets, and they'll pass manual review all day long because they're modernized HTML sites. So again, Upwork is a great source, but you have to know how to hire. And that's why, even if you don't want to go set up hiring funnels and do like mass hiring, or attempt that, I would still recommend that you pick up Outsource Kingpin so that you can learn, like, the types of things that you can do to weed out candidates that aren't going to be a good fit for whatever project it is that you need. If that makes sense. Chris, do you have anybody else you would recommend besides Online PH or Upwork?
Well, actually, even Fiverr, it depends really what you're doing or what you need. There's People Per Hour that I used a couple times. But yeah, like Online Jobs PH, Upwork, even on my end, the main ones. Except, well, it depends. Like if you need like a very, I don't know, like a specific designer or a programmer or something like that, there are a couple other boards. And the other thing where I hired from is from Facebook groups. So like usually there are like certain groups where they have job boards on Facebook groups. That can work as well for you. Or even if you find a course that is for like a specific thing, you can also like post in those groups, and like you can literally pick somebody who's already an expert right from there.
So I see what you're saying. So you're being like if you had a training course that you want to implement that method into your business, there's likely going to be people that have that will provide done for you services for that, right?
Yes. So for example,
like
if you remember,
VA assistants.
If you remember the very back in the day, the forum where we all started from.
Yeah.
I even got like, they also had like a job section and stuff. I also hired people from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
For link building and all kinds of things.
Okay, well, thanks.